For early access to more videos like this, plus exclusive content, community discussions, and more, become a patron at patreon.com/BrucePoinsett. What's going on, world? It's Bruce, and this is Oregon Kwanzaa Stories Day 4, a 7-part mini storytelling series based on the principles of Kwanzaa. Why? Because Kwanzaa is a holiday that's, often ridiculed, devalued, even though it's a holiday celebrating empowerment and education. So, you know, seems kind of timely, especially around now. Anyways, today, as we'll be covering the 7 principles, today we are covering Ujamaa, which is collective work and responsibility. And I remind you, if you have your own collective work and responsibility stories, please drop them in the comments and like, share, subscribe, and all the good YouTube stuff so we can keep growing this page and growing this community. Now, Ujamaa. So, Ujamaa, which is cooperative economics, it is basically, I think, a principle that a lot of people should be familiar with, if by another name, because think buying Black, supporting Black businesses, supporting, Black economic self-determination. And when, a great Ujamaa inspired memory for me was when I first learned of, at the time it was called Green Lady Foods. So I was working at the Scanner, which is a historically Black newspaper, speaking of cooperative economics. And I was covering this Malcolm X birthday weekend event. So you had a Black organization, and they had a bunch of parts to it, but one was this vegan breakfast kind of experience with Green Lady Foods, which was run by this family, the Abiotos, who, I later get to know a lot better, but this is my first day meeting them. Is this family, they're running a vegan food operation. But what was interesting about it is you had, again, Black organization hired out, Black catering company. They had invited a Black men's organization for the event. So it's just levels of Black on Black on Black on Black celebrating Malcolm X. And I'll tell you, I had not been open to vegan food like that before, but it was tasty, and it definitely opened my eyes. And then I would come to find out that the Abiotos are just, the super family of artists. Like, it's like the Fantastic Four, except, well, it's more like the Wu-Tang Clan, honestly, of just artists. You got photographers, dancers, singers, drummers, educators, just all around, artists, and many do, multiple disciplines. So, again, it's just a super talented family. And the first person in the family I really got to know was Intezar, who, is a prolific photographer as well as dancer, journalist, and I think she's probably best known for the Black Portlanders sort of photography series. So you can check out some of her stuff here. But basically, she started a series, The Black Portlanders, where she's gone around Oregon just taking portraits of Black people. And I think what's especially necessary about her work in this space and in this time is that, it's not just, a lot of times we do this stuff for, the white gaze and what works for that audience and what works for, those financial sources. But what Intezar was doing was really for Black joy and was for us. And I feel proud to say that I was the first person to cover the Black Portlanders. I'll just call it now. You can look at the date, you can go look it up. Scanner News, April 22nd, 2013. But again, Black art for Black people. But again, where does that bring back? So how do we get to economics from there? Because we're talking about art. Well, art is often commerce. And because, Intezar is so talented, she's, had opportunities to work with different institutions throughout the state through, she's been profiled on, national media, on CNN, on Al Jazeera, won awards, done these exhibits, whether it's at the governor's, at the Capitol building, you know, along the, different streets of Portland. And again, there's a bunch of contracting involved. There's a bunch of, frankly, politics involved. But one of the things that, has always impressed me about what she does is that, it's about the people. It's about what she said in an interview I did with her, extreme care. And it's not just the art, it's also the business of the art. So we recently did an interview, which, not to plug, but will be available for the Blacktastic Adventure very soon. So, check that out when you get the chance. And it was a candid arts discussion about, what's happening in Oregon, both the goods, but also a lot of the negatives of contracting and working in these spaces and dealing with the politics, dealing with the infrastructure, dealing with people who are using your story, or using your stories, using your work, but maybe not for the purposes you want, maybe not for the empowerment of Black people necessarily, or not, it's not even like necessarily out of malice, but just it's not for necessarily us. So how do you, especially if you're an artist, how do you fight back against that? And the answer is kind of goes back to the beginning of cooperative economics. So one thing we discussed in our interview, and she, was very, very clear about, make sure you keep this in, is when she gets projects, even when she gets people reaching out who want to profile her for things like this, she makes sure that, make sure it's a Black writer who's covering her. The same way there was a story about Spike Lee earlier, either this year or last year, saying, he wanted Black interviewers to interview him for, the movie is escaping me now, Black Klansman. And, it seems small, but it's an important power move. It puts money in people's pockets. When Intezar, for a profile we recently did, it wasn't just have a Black writer, it was also have a Black design person for, this magazine feature. It is making sure at all levels of your work, or all levels of your project, that, it's not just you making money, it is helping getting your foot in the door and helping others also get paid and uh you know get a platform so they can grow what they're doing and they can get exposure to these same sources. Because oftentimes cooperative economics is boiled down to just, we share money in our community, we keep the money in the community. And if we're just looking at population data, you know Black business in Oregon is probably not going to survive strictly on Black customers. Not because the wealth isn't there, but just geography and numbers. Like, you sell business to everyone. So when you live out this vision, and sometimes I think the beauty of having, someone who's not necessarily who you think of as like the entrepreneur, but an artist who's showing you the creativity while also very much sticking to the plan and sticking to this idea of we support each other and we find ways wherever we can to continue supporting each other and building each other up. And that's how we get stronger. That's how we build up these networks. That's how we build up power, and more importantly, collective power. So just a little food for thought for you on this fourth day of Kwanzaa. I will check you out on the next video. And again, happy Kwanzaa, everyone.